Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly settle down. Welcome, sir. Good evening. Again, another very warm welcome to each one of you. Few people are enjoying their refreshments. Let me take 1 or 2 minutes to just tell you what's happening in MMA next few days so that you don't miss them and either you attend in person or watch it on live. Then on 7th of June, that is tomorrow, we have another event, the future of the soft science and business transformation. We got 3 outstanding speakers. Sheshai is the chairman of Asian Paints, and also Gopalakrishnan, former executive director of Tata Sons. We also have Arish Bhattacharjee. If you want, she can use the boardroom for the baby. Author and is also former Hindustan Unilever. It's again a fantastic event. I really urge upon you to, I walk miles to listen to these gentlemen. On 17th, again we have a very good event. This is an event on navigating change, emerging trends in real estate, regulations and the impact of industry. We got 4 outstanding panel here just to tell you, because you invest so much of money in your real estate, but at the end of the time, when you do a proper evaluation or due diligence, you miss out something and then you're going to serious trouble. So these people will tell you what exactly has happened in the real estate sector in terms of regulations, in terms of sanctions, in terms of approval, RERA, all this in one place. It's going to be a great seminar. It's happening on 17th of June at the same time, 6 to 7:30. Harthi Lakshmi Narayan, Shardul Amarchand is going to lead the conversation. And we got 3 outstanding panel again. Then on 20th, we have Read and Grow as usual for the management students. How it's all about how the Read and Grow. It's on coffee can investing, and we have got 3 outstanding panel. Mr. Babu Krishnamurthy, Ajit Gautam is a partner, and Charada Conan. Satya is again from Krishna Capital. They'll be talking to us. 24th, we have another excellent event on media and you, trends, challenges and opportunities. We have got outstanding 3 women who actually work in the media sector going to come and talk to us. We are specifically focused on women empowerment. How women play a major role in media management and how they have been successful or failure, what trouble they find. Because any of the people who want to take career in the media management, I urge upon you, you must attend this event. Then we also worried about the mind management. Things are not that happy in many of the things. I think happy organizer, one which really does very well. We thought let's do a series on mind management, mental health actually. In this connection, we are doing this, unleashing the inner potential, cultivating mental resilience for well-being. And this we are doing jointly with Buddhi Clinic, and it's going to be having series of talks next 3 to 4 months. The first one is being nurturing mental health at early development. Again, we have got outstanding panel. This is happening starting from 26th of June onwards. Then on 5th of July, it's our flagship event, MMA AGM and award function is happening on 5th of July here. Please do come, and Narendran, Chairman, Managing Director of Tata Steel has agreed to be the chief guest. We got Josh will be giving the keynote address. This is a grand gala event. Please do come. We'll showcase what MMA has done over the period. You'll like it. So we have also lined up a lot of events till the end of July. I won't take, the people are still coming in. Now coming to today's event. Pathway to carbon neutrality, sustainable transformation of industries, MSMEs and Tamil Nadu. I am quite sure many people I asked him, what is net zero? Not many really understand what is net zero. Some zero, a lot of people talk. I also talk about it. Really, it's a very, very serious subject actually. And today, if we don't do that, if we don't achieve the net zero, I think there are more than 140 countries that signed up to achieve the net zero by certain year, by 2035, some year they're given. But ultimately, we don't achieve, I think we are going to live a world which is going to be miserable for our future generations to come. That is one only area, and I think we've got an outstanding panel today to talk on this subject. And I can tell you, you're all blessed to be here today physically. There are a lot of people are watching on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome a fantastic panel this evening. We have Mr. Ponnuswamy, founder chairman of Pure Chemicals and co-chairman of CA National MSME Council. We have Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman, President India Region Danfoss, Mr. Unnikishan, Managing Director Glass Solutions in Govind Private Limited. We also have Anju Bedi. Anju is the Director Industry Affairs, Corporate Communication Sustainable. Then Mr. Sita Raman, Member of Managing Committee and Chairman of Superauto Coach. Very good gentlemen, please take your place on the dais, sir. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have warm round of applause for this panel this evening. Yes. The format of the event is already been shared with you in the program. It's straight and simple. I'll request Mr. Sitaraman, Super Auto Forge Chairman and member of the management committee, to deliver the formal welcome address with the context. Thereafter, each speaker will share their insights on different themes. Some will share on his insights on MSME sector, and Mr. Ravichandran on national, and Unikishan is also chairman of CIA Southern Region, one of the divisions dealing with this, and he will be sharing on what is the Tamil Nadu perspective. Anju is the director of industry affairs, will lead the conversation and also moderate the Q&A session. Now let me have the privilege of welcoming Mr. Sitaraman. Sitaraman, chairman Auto Forge, Super Auto Forge is a private limited company in Chennai, pioneered in cold forging technology in India for the automotive industrial components since 1974. Under his leadership, SCA will become one of the largest exporters of cold warm forged parts, and annual sales surpassing over 1,400 crores and employing over 2,000 individuals, notably Sitaraman, led the development of cartridges cases in Indian ordnance factory, and great supporter of MMA, as a member of managing committee. I request Sitaraman to deliver the formal welcome to Sitaraman.
Good evening. It's indeed my privilege to deliver the welcome address, the opening remarks at the special seminar on the theme of the book, Pathways to Carbon Neutrality, MSME and Industrial Transformation in Tamil Nadu. I consider it a rare privilege and honor to welcome Ravichandran Purushothaman, President, Indian Region Danfoss Industries Private Limited, Mr. M. Ponuswamy, Chairman and Managing Director, One Pure Chemicals India Limited, Private Limited, Mr. Unikishan, Managing Director, Saint Gobain India Private Limited, Ms. Anju Mary K, Director, Industries of Corporate Communication Sustainability, Danfoss India Region. I also take this opportunity to welcome all delegates who are joined this evening, guests and members of MMA from all over Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, guests and partner organizations, large number of participants from all over the country who have joined us online. For the benefit of our guests and invitees from various organizations, this gives me immense pleasure that MMA, which established in 1956, has evolved today as the largest management organization in the country with over 8,000 members and spread over 10 chapters in Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. MMA has been awarded the Best Management Association in the country for 14 years in a row, including the previous year, 2022-23. The entire greening of ecosystem and transitioning to energy independent carbon nation is being furthered through a project Panchamrit, as announced by Honorable Prime Minister during COP26 summit held in Glasgow 2021. The main aim is to adopt green and sustainable practices such as energy efficiency, circular economy, solar power generation, etc. in business processes and adopt low emission pathways. Subsequently in 2022, the Energy Resource Institute, TERI, brought out a comprehensive report financing low carbon transition in India, MSME sector, which brought out a set of recommendations and also highlighting limitations. However, achieving India's ambitious enhanced NDC will remind even MSMEs to adopt new technologies which are significantly more energy efficient and sourced from non-fossil fuel based alternatives. Transforming the sector will require financing institutions to steer interests of MSME stakeholders by incentivizing this change and providing adequate finances required for transform their processes. The climate finance landscape in India is fragmented, with central authorities, state level agencies, international funding organizations, private and public bodies all playing varying roles in providing necessary financial assistance and professional guidance to MSMEs. The only possible through support strong institutions, efficient financing mechanism and robust policy interventions, this can be achieved. It is in this context, today's seminar is very significant. I am sure the participants, particularly MSME who have joined the MMA and those who have joined online would have a number of takeaways from the deliberations. I thank once again CAS for their continued support to MMA and Danfoss for participating in this event. I also take this opportunity to welcome past president MSA, my colleagues from management committee, members of MMA, distinguished invitees, management students who have joined us at MMA, and viewers from all over the globe watching this program live on YouTube, Facebook and MMA live webinar. I wish you all a great time and enriching evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sitaraman, for setting the context for the discussion what we're going to follow. And this is a subject which really not attracts many actually. And I thought it was going to be a full house, but I hope large number of people are watching it online. The subject not many really think it doesn't bother them because nothing to do with your skill development. That is the thing. But let me have the privilege of introducing the distinguished panel for this evening. We're going to be sharing great insights. And let me start with Ravichandran Purushothaman. He is the president of Danfoss Industries and subsidiary of Danish multinational corporation. Dating back to 2002, he has demonstrated expertise in various sectors, including mobile, hydraulic, electrification, cooling, refrigeration. As a member of the Danfoss global management team and also the board member, influenced strategy and mentor startups, particularly in the energy efficiency and decarbonization. Beyond Danfoss, he holds prominent positions in industry bodies and has chaired the CIA chapter, emphasizing the commitment to the fostering innovation and sustainability sector in areas like food and agriculture. He is also the past president of MMA, and I had the privilege of working under him, and one of the finest past presidents we had in MMA. Very warm welcome to you, Ravi. It's a pleasure to have you with us again. Let me have the privilege of introducing Mr. Ponnuswamy, and Ponnuswamy is the founder, chairman of One Pure Chemicals India Private Limited, emerging from the agricultural background to establish a leading chemical supplier renowned domestically and internationally since 1981. With a turnover of over 4,500 crores, One Pure Chemicals operates across India globally with subsidiaries in Australia, Dubai, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Bangladesh. And Ponnuswamy is also a co-chairman of CIA National MSME Council, has garnered numerable accolades including ICIS ranking in Chemical CIL Award and for his outstanding contribution to industry and export performance. Because he's an expert in MSME sector, he will be sharing his insights from the MSME sector perspective. Then we have Unnikrishnan, Managing Director, Glass Solutions, Sengob India Limited, has over 31 years of industry experience. He is Managing Director of Glass Solutions of Sengob Private Limited. His journey began with Greenwell Group, now part of the Sengob, where he has been instrumental in the growth of glass business in India. Beyond professional role, he has actively contributed to sustainability policy development, holds leadership positions in various industry bodies, CIA, Madras Management Association. He is our Vice President of MMA and a very active role in MMA. Many of the good events we do for his guidance and support, we could achieve that. And also Indo-French Chamber of Commerce, demonstrating his commitment to the driving positive change in the industry. Very warm welcome to you, Mr. Suni. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Then we also have the privilege of introducing Anju Mary. Anju is the Director of Industry Affairs, Corporate Communications, Sustainability, Danfoss. Over 2 decades of experience spanning across esteemed organizations like Standard Chartered Bank and serve as the pivotal advisor of Danfoss, driving industry and public affairs, communication, branding, and sustainability initiatives. With rich educational background, including a student of Madras University and IIM Lucknow, she has been instrumental in shaping the Danfoss brand identity in India and fostering a growth journey. And her impactful contributions have garnered prestigious awards like the Economic Times Most Sustainable Organization in India in 2023, and also Golden Peacock Award for CSR initiatives in reflecting a commitment to safe empowerment and sustainable future. Pleasure to have you with us. Ladies and gentlemen, now you know what a powerful panel we have. As I mentioned to you earlier, each of the speakers will request to share their insight, maybe with the permission of things. Start with Mr. Ponnuswamy, thereafter Ravi on the national perspective. Then, based on the context, Mr. Uni will the state perspective. Is it okay with you, the order? And you can decide on the order. We go with you. Ravi, then. Mr. Ravi?
Yeah,
yes. Yes, please. You can speak from there. You want to come here also? Sorry.
Thank you, Group Captain, and good evening, everybody. It's always a pleasure to come back to MMA. And I think we had really cherished the time when we pivoted the digital platform during COVID, and it's always interesting to see how MMA has grown leveraging digital, and I'm sure that a lot of people have benefited out of this whole thing. I think today, I think the theme we are talking about is more around pathways for carbon neutrality. I think the theme is more around Tamil Nadu. But I will give you a little bit of outset of how big this challenge is. And even though the Prime Minister has, in COP26 in Glasgow, has set the target that India wants to be carbon neutral by 2070. But this challenge is pretty steep. And challenge has very significant implications both for the country, for the people, and for the industry. Let me try and unravel this in a few parts. Firstly, getting carbon neutrality means completely switching off energy that is coming from fossil fuels. And today when you look at, just last week, some of you might have read in the newspaper, India's demand, peak demand, that's 225 gigawatts of energy. I think when Delhi was at Mangeshpur, 52.9 degrees centigrade actually. Even though the meter was wrong, but that's the peak load India has touched. And remember, 2/3 of India is yet to be built. Now imagine the power we need to build the rest of India. And how are we going to make this transition from fossil fuel to non-fossil fuel? So this is a very big challenge, because if you want today the economy to grow at even 7%, every addition of new energy that is coming has to come only from non-fossil fuel sources. And what are the non-fossil fuel sources we have? We only have solar, and solar is also not available around the clock. You also have an option to go to wind. You also have an option to go to nuclear, and you have many more options which are not from the fossil fuel sources. So this is the strategic challenge that we have. So on one end, we have to decouple growth versus energy intensity. On the other end, we have to find alternative sources of energy. So I think the Government of India, along with Ministry of Power, has built a roadmap of how to get to carbon neutrality. Which means India's emissions is not yet peak. And if you take the developed economies like Europe or USA, the industrialization has already peaked in those continents. So their emissions have already peaked. You cannot go beyond this. But in the case of India, our emissions are going to peak somewhere between 2045 and 2047. That's based on the calculation that I've done. So how do you really manage this transition? Because getting to net zero means switching off energy from coal and fossil fuel options, including oil is one of them as well. So this is the big strategic challenge that we have. Now when you look at the one level lower, when you look at it, where are the emissions coming from? 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions in India are coming from generation of electricity, largely coal-based, right? Because 60% of India's, 60 to 65% of India's electricity generation is coal. That's the raw material for generating electricity. Additionally, on top of the 60%, close to 10% is coming from diesel engines. Many of the length and breadth of India is still backed up by diesel engines. And there are also terrains in India where you use diesel. So coal is 60%, diesel is, 50% is coal and 10% is diesel. Mobility is about 20%. So mobility is on top of the 60%, makes it 80% actually. Industry is about close to 16%, and the rest is agriculture. So this is the structure where the emissions are happening. Now of course today, this evening, we are talking more about industry, but I wanted to give you this perspective that on one end industry is consuming power, but our challenge is also where generation of power is there, where the biggest greenhouse gas emissions are also lying actually. So we also need to look at how do we build pathways for the grid generation? How do we build a pathway to switch off diesel engines? How do we build mobility pathways to completely move them to electric or electrify them? And how do we build pathways for industry to decarbonize? Now all of this needs what? It requires significant amount of capital. 2024, the world is investing $3 trillion of money into energy. World's GDP is about $100 trillion, right? Every year, the world invests between 2.8% to 3% of money into energy. And out of the $3 trillion, first time in the world, we have seen $2 trillion is going to non-fossil fuel sources of investments. So that is a very big shift the world has seen actually. $1 trillion is still going to building coal plants. We are not switching off coal. Imagine you still have to keep your engine going. You cannot simply move overnight to technology which is solar. And again, solar has other geopolitical implications because today solar is only produced by one country. I don't want to name the country, but you know the country actually. They have all the raw materials and all the resources actually. So on one side we have an economic challenge because of greenhouse gas emissions. On the other side we have a geopolitical challenge on balancing the trade and the stuff. So this is the biggest challenge that we have in terms of making this transition. Now, when you come to unravel what could be the ecosystem that is needed to make this happen, I think fundamentally there are 4 or 5 things that we have to build as a country. First is, this is a technology game, right? Even if you take cars, electric mobility, now for electric mobility, the biggest challenge today is the batteries. And we are still fixing the batteries when the car is flying. It's a little bit like fixing the plane when the engine is flying. Or rather, the plane is flying and you fix the engine, something like that. So, we still haven't figured out what's the right technology that is needed. However, there are technologies available where today you can reduce your demand from where you are consuming energy from fossil fuels. That is why Government of India came with PAT schemes, perform achieved rate schemes, where industry invested a lot of money and tried to deploy technologies to reduce energy consumption. Because you take this auditorium, group captain has designed this auditorium, I don't know, for 800 people, and he's running an air conditioner at full load. Now he's not adjusting the number of people based on the number of people, he's not adjusting the energy. He's still throttling full energy for the less number of people actually, which means he's blowing up money. I'm not saying in real term, I don't know whether... So this is one example. So the question is, as consumers, we have LED bulbs is one example, you have cooling is one example, and you have 24/7 applications. The biggest challenge in front of the country is, today the digitalization is also driving huge amount of energy actually. So technology is a very important thing to be fixed. That is one message I want to leave you all with. Second is, as technology is getting innovated more and more, we also need to engage with universities. We have to build skills in India to really back this up, because the existing ecosystem does not have the right skills to play with the right future technologies. So working closely with universities is a very important piece in really solving some of the strategic technology challenges as well. And simultaneously we need to build skills in this area. The third thing is, whatever I said requires a lot of funding. Where is the money going to come from? Right? So funding is one of the biggest challenges that we will be confronted with. So the problem for India is still a developing country, and already developed countries are putting conditions like CBAM, which we spoke about, where we need support from developed countries in order to get ourselves, make our choices to go to pathways of carbon neutrality. So attracting investment and allowing finance to come into this sector is the third important challenge that we have in terms of getting to carbon neutrality. The fourth is public policy. One of the examples I would like to quote here is, today in India, the large companies have adopted PAT, and there are very great iconic examples. India today is the most energy efficient cement producer in the world. India is today the most energy efficient steel producer in the world. India is the most energy efficient glass producer in the world. In fact, he's sitting here along with our panel. So we have a lot more very great initiatives being done by large companies. But the problem really is, India is just not big companies. India is made up of small and medium scale industries actually. 60% of the GDP of India is coming from the MSME sector. How do you get them on board to this journey of transformation? Because you know the challenges in MSME are very humongous actually. So this is one of the strategic challenges we need to fix. For that, we need a lot of startups. We need a lot of business model innovation. For example, cooling, today, you don't need to buy a large cooling equipment for a hospital or for this kind of building. You can actually get cooling as a service. Which means every day you cool, per day you can pay the service provider who keeps you at 24 degrees temperature actually. Because digital allows us to build those kind of business models. So, on top of technology challenge, on top of skill challenge, on top of engaging with the younger community, startups, we also need to fix the funding. The other big challenge is we need more innovation in business model. Now, when you want to say innovation in business model, it has to be backed up by the right public policy. Now, you can't have a situation where you put 28% GST on a new business model which is cooling as a service. That's an example. So it has to holistically fit in. And cooling as an example, we have to really deploy stringent measures. I don't know how many of you know. Can anybody tell me at what temperature you keep your air conditioner in your houses? Sorry? What is the government recommendation? And how many of you keep it below 24? I think nobody wants to raise their hand, but I'm sure most of you keep it below 24 actually. Now what you do really is you consume more electricity when you go below 24. And the ideal thing for Chennai is to keep it at 25 and switch your fan on at 1. That gives you a better airflow and an air circulation actually. But that's not what normal users in India do on air conditioning actually. But we don't have stringent laws. I can understand residential you can't control. But in buildings, we have what is called as ECBC codes actually. But in India, we are not able to see the ECBC codes being complied very strictly. And cooling is becoming more and more a necessity. It's no more a luxury actually. So, and climate change is actually impacting, people at the lower strata of the society. So we really need to look at some stringent public policy measures in order to implement these kind of initiatives so that we holistically control the energy consumption arising out of cooling. I gave you one example, cooling, but it is true for many other things in terms of emissions and all of that stuff actually. So holistically, if you want to create pathways for India, these are 4 or 5 things that have to fall in place in order to get to carbon neutrality. So I'll kind of stop here and then come back because I think we'll have some opportunity to further deep dive into each of these themes again. But I want to just conclude by saying climate change is real. Controlling greenhouse gases, we have to take action on it. It's an extremely complex challenge we have because India is an emerging economy. We haven't seen the emissions still peaking in India. We have to transit to non-fossil fuel solutions. We are not a technology nation. We have scarce capital. Our cost of capital is very high. We need technology, we need skills, we need innovation, we need startups. But this is also the biggest opportunity for economic development. And greenhouse gases and net zero are economic development challenges. So that's why we need to put a lot more focus in the future on this topic. I'll stop here and then maybe come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi. Thanks for setting the scene on some of the challenges in front of us when it comes to carbon neutrality and some of the key areas which are of importance here. Now may I call upon Mr. Unnikrishnan to kind of do a deep dive on industries, and then we'll come on to Mr. Punuswamy sir, who is the backbone of all the industries, MSMEs. So we are saving you the best for the last.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank MMA and the group captain for having me in this particular panel. It's a subject very close to my heart, and I also want to tell group captain, don't be disheartened that our hall is not full. Large number of people have decided they are saving some carbon today by not traveling here, so they are watching it online. So, on that optimistic note, let's start. So, I think thank you, Mr. Ravi, for really setting the context and giving the large picture from a global and the Indian context point of view. So I would rather, so he has told us why we need to look at the carbon neutral part of it. So I would probably spend more time on the how part of it and more from the industry and in particular from a Tamil Nadu perspective point of view. So when as Mr. Ravi said, industry contributes to roughly around maybe 16% of the carbon emissions. So it's not the biggest one. However, with more manufacturing coming into India and more manufacturing coming into Tamil Nadu, I think it's very imperative that we really focus on what are the actions that we need to take now so that we are carbon neutral by 2070. Now, one may think 2070 is another 46 years from now. Some of us may not be even existing also, so why worry about it? But I think that's not the way the world is moving. From two different points of view, I think one, all of us are conscious, so we really want to leave something better for the next generation. But more from a business and commercial point of view, if one has to really survive and grow in the business, it's absolutely essential that you are committed to carbon neutrality and you are committed to a path towards carbon neutrality in maybe 20 or 25 years' time. But that's the way the world is changing. So especially the businesses which are into exporting from India into many countries, it will become mandatory going forward that you are really on the path of that. Now, how do we therefore, when you look at industry, manufacturing, it's technical and therefore, we like some kind of a structure and framework for us to really move forward. Otherwise, we don't know how to do it. So typically, we look at what we call scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3. Okay? Scope 1 is what you, really emit out of your basic manufacturing, the core manufacturing process itself. It could be coming from the energy that you largely use for the basic process. It could come from the raw materials that you use. So that's the scope 1 part of it. Scope 2 is what you consume, the electricity, the energy in the form of electricity that you consume and how much you therefore emit carbon. That's the scope 2 part of it. And scope 3 is related to the supply chain. Whatever materials that you buy, you deliver your goods to the customers, what are the kind of CO2 or CO2 equivalent that you emit through that. So these are the three buckets in which we normally look at from an industry point of view. The first and foremost is the scope 1, I think where there is a huge scope immediately for us to really work on, and I'll also give you a few examples of what we have done in our manufacturing. Now, why is it so important for us to look at it from the scope 1? In many industries, and especially, for example, the industry that I come from in glass, a plant normally has a life of 20 or 30 years. Okay, so if you want to be carbon neutral by 2040 or 2050, you need to start thinking about it now. So the plant that you construct today should be capable of being carbon neutral by that time in two different aspects. One, in terms of the efficiency of the process itself, and second, the kind of energy sources, the kind of fuels that you will have 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you should be able to use that kind of fuel. So the way you design your plant, your technology, your process, you need to really think several years ahead, maybe a couple of years ahead, a couple of decades ahead in terms of doing that. Now, how do you do that? Therefore, you need to do a proof of concept, you need to do certain tests for that. For example, we did a test in our plant in Germany to see whether we can run our glass furnaces with hydrogen. So we know it's possible. Successfully it's done, it's possible. The day hydrogen becomes available in abundant quantity and commercially viable, we are ready to move. So you should be ready in terms of, the technical advancement on that part of it. The other is, I think, from a Tamil Nadu's point of view, you need to move. We can't move overnight in terms of reducing the scope 1 from, wherever we are to zero level. It will be a progression in phases. First is the kind of fuel that you use. I think you have to move step by step towards more cleaner fuels. Traditionally, Tamil Nadu has been largely using heavy fuel. Many industries, whether it's cement, steel, many other industries, heavy fuel has been traditionally used. The first step would be for us to move towards natural gas, which is the next cleaner fuel that one can get. We have been a bit of a laggard on that as a state because we did not have the infrastructure to really get natural gas widely available across the state. But things are changing. I think newer pipelines are being laid out. And I am hopeful that maybe in the months to come, we will also be part of the national grid. Today, Tamil Nadu is not part of the national grid. So some of the industrially advanced states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, they are part of the national grid. So the advantage is you really get multiple sources of natural gas at commercially viable prices for the industry to really move towards that. So I think that will be the next logical step for Tamil Nadu to do that. Next is from the hydrogen. I think all of us hear about hydrogen a lot. Today, hydrogen is a possibility. We have renewable power available through wind, through solar. However, even today, through the, whatever the process available today, hydrogen is not commercially viable. The price of hydrogen will be roughly around $5 to $6 a kilogram. Unless it comes below $2, it will not be economically viable for any industry to switch over. That's unlikely to happen through any technical advancement in the near future. So there may be some policy interventions required from the government also. Because we are anyway investing a lot of money or spending a lot of money on boosting certain sectors and things like that. One of the things that the government could really look at is in a time-bound manner, do we subsidize, shift from, more polluting fuels to hydrogen. And Tamil Nadu has a good capability of really setting up the facilities for that in a time-bound manner. Why I am saying time-bound manner? Because during that time, a lot of technical advancement will happen. And today, for example, I was yesterday talking to somebody who said, from the effluents that we have from the factories or from whatever we have from the cities, there is a technology now available by which you can produce hydrogen. Now, today it is in a pilot scale, but I am sure in maybe 5 years' time, 10 years' time, that would be available in the large scale. Wherein today there are many MSMEs in some of the industrial clusters where there is no effluent treatment plants. You can actually set up an effluent treatment plant. It solves the pollution problem. It also generates hydrogen. So such technology will evolve in the years to come. So scope 1 is one. The other is to look at alternate raw materials. For example, in our own manufacturing of glass, we have now replaced some of the carbonaceous raw materials with non-carbonaceous raw materials. So there is a lot of work that we need to do in terms of science, in terms of chemistry, in terms of what technology that we need to do. The other very important one is the recycled content in your manufacturing. How can you increase the recycled content? Many of the materials that you manufacture, you can significantly increase the recycled content. People talk about circular economy, all that part of it. So some of the leading industries in each of the sector would need to take the lead. Initially, it may not be viable, but you have to set up the infrastructure so that you develop a circular economy. You bring back a lot of materials back into the system so that you recycle and you're not using fresh, raw materials, and therefore, you are also reducing the carbon emissions. And the last one on that in the scope 1 is really the potential India as a country and Tamil Nadu in particular has, which is shifting to biofuels. Okay, and unlike a Brazil or some of the other countries, where they do produce biofuel by depriving somebody of the food. So they are actually planting and then converting that for fuel. But in India, we are not doing that. We have enough of agricultural waste which is available. So there are technologies today available at pilot scale, but I am sure in the years to come, that is going to really develop as a very interesting sector, very interesting business also for many people. And that ecosystem, once it's developed, that can be a very powerful source for us to really convert from fuels which are, emitting carbon dioxide to something which is not doing that. So that's on the scope 1 part of it. Coming to the scope 2, which is largely electricity that we consume, that is where Tamil Nadu has already got a head start. Because in the energy mix of Tamil Nadu, in the electricity, we already have a higher percentage of renewable sources and nuclear. It's roughly around 43%, which is much higher compared to many other states. So if anybody wants to set up a manufacturing, just come to Tamil Nadu, straight away you reduce your carbon footprint because the electricity source is already that much better. Here again, I think there are other policy avenues which are available for us. Tamil Nadu has got limited land available. So to that extent, I am not sure we will be able to expand the solar farms beyond a limit. I mean, that's what I also hear when we speak to many people in the government, which is right, because we don't have, the land is very precious. We can't really have large, huge solar farms set up in the state. However, there are two other opportunities. One is the offshore wind. I think recently all of you would be knowing that in the last vote on account, the union government has also set aside certain money for viability gap funding for offshore wind. Now, there are two states which can benefit. One is Tamil Nadu, the other is Gujarat. I think these are two states which can benefit. So I think Tamil Nadu should really take the head start on that and take maximum benefit out of this funding from the center and really invite businesses to set up this offshore. That can really further increase the renewable content. Second is, I think there is a policy on interstate transfer of, electricity. Today, many state governments are sitting on it. They are in a soft way putting hurdles in not really making that happen. Tamil Nadu should actually take the lead in working with many states, working with the union government, and easing some of the policies by which we can really benefit. There are other states like maybe Karnataka, maybe part of Maharashtra, Rajasthan. A lot of barren land is available. They can put a huge amount of solar farms, and the consumption can happen in Tamil Nadu. So, using that ISTS policy, if we can influence, I think that can be a great way to further really improve the renewable energy content of that. That brings me to the last one, which is on the scope 3 part of it. Scope 3 is really to do with your supply chain. Two things. One, I think the leading manufacturing companies have to really take a step saying that we are going to decarbonize our supply chain. So you identify your key vendors, your suppliers, you work with them and see how your embodied carbon of your raw material coming to your factory is really brought down. Second, on the transport. I think transport is one area because we all transport our goods manufactured to different parts of the state or the country. How can we really bring down the emissions on that part of it? Here again, I would say Tamil Nadu is a laggard because again, we did not have the gas availability in abundance. We have not moved. Places like Delhi and many other places have moved to CNG many years back. So I think the first step that we should do is really to set up a wide network of CNG and LNG availability in the state so that the transport for goods and eventually the transport for people, that shifts to CNG first and later to, I'm not talking about electric mobility because that has got its own other challenges, but this is one step that we should really do that. To conclude, I think, these are the 3 steps in a systematic way that the industries have to do. And we also need to look at some of the sectors which are maximum in terms of the emissions. So typically it is cement and steel which are considered the largest in terms of that. So I think it will be important to really look at some sector specific initiatives to really bring it down. Last, I think Mr. Ravi also spoke about it. How do we bring in more startups to work on that? There are a lot of startups who are working on environment related things, on sustainability, on green. How do we bring some of them to really work on new technologies in terms of new materials that we can use? How do we have more innovative ways of producing, hydrogen and many other things? I think if we really bring all that together, I am sure Tamil Nadu can be one of the states in the forefront, not just in terms of economic growth, in terms of manufacturing growth, but also in terms of carbon neutrality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Unni, for setting clarity on Scope 1, Scope 2 and Scope 3 emissions for industries. So now we follow the natural transition. May I request Punnaswamy sir to kindly come on stage and share more about MSMEs in Tamil Nadu.
This is the speaker, Sitaraman, Ravichandran, Mr. Undikrishnan, Ma'am Manjuberi, MMA ED, ever dynamic, Mr. Vijay Kumar, Captain Vijay Kumar, MMA members, I think MSME members also there online. Very good evening. See, I'm happy to be here today. It is to learn something about net carbon. I think a distinguished speaker spoke very well. My friend Ravichandran and Unnikrishnan, I think they gave a very large picture. What I understand, when we go to anywhere, our customers, maybe about 5, 6, 7, nobody talks about that. Our suppliers, global suppliers, everybody spoke about net zero. I think it is a change I am seeing. It's, any government meeting also, they are very serious about this. And also, see, one thing is, Tamil Nadu, as Mr. Unnikrishnan said, it's a manufacturing state. And we have good, almost, see, our country is struggling to reach 25% manufacturing GDP, whereas Tamil Nadu is already more than 30%. It's our India manufacturing GDP is around 18 plus. Government target is to reach 25%. I think we are good in service. I think service is our economy. But MSMEs really contribute about 45% of the exports. From India, the exports 45%, and also in manufacturing about 29%. And MSME has the caliber of manufacturing good product at very, very competitive prices. That Tamil Nadu is very good. See, what I am saying after hearing them, MSME can think. One is how they can help net carbon achieving, and also it will be, it will be advantage for you. It may be profitable, more profitable. See, one of my very college type friend, he is in US, he is in a research chemical company. See, he is telling about 10 years back, he just started, sustainability, some saving, the uses of energy. Like that, he has started voluntarily apart from his routine work. Today, he is heading global head for sustainability. He says, so far, we started as a volunteer to manage and recognize this use. I think he says globally they have saved around $600 million. I think MSMEs should think. If we go for energy efficiency audit or energy efficiency product, you will definitely make profit. And now the customers are insisting. The export, I say, 100%. See, we are supplying to some MNCs here. When we want to export, they say, even here itself they started out. Whether this certificate you can get. The chemicals, they say e-commerce. I think they are asking. We never knew about this. The company, I never knew. We want to export to Europe, you need this certificate. Then we have tried, we could not. Then we again tried, we got some certificate. So this I think we should embrace, MSME should embrace. See, Karur, Ravichandran, Unnikrishnan, we used to go there on our organization, CII work. They have a lot of windmills, solar. I think they are not pushing this as a green production. And also we have found a company who is manufacturing recycled PET bottles making garments. And he says the price is more for that product. Even if you are seeing we go to Adidas and buy a trouser, it is costly. Recycled material, it's about 500 rupees cost. So you are able to, and he make a turnover of 50 crores. And he is quote, Prime Minister is wearing that famous recycle. I think I am seeing this opportunity for MSMEs to recycle. So because we talked about circular economy, I think this lot of things can happen. And also one of the things what we are saying is over a period of time, in Tamil Nadu itself, like Tirupur, in dyeing the fabric and all, they were using 100% water and they never treat the water and reuse it. After about some time, now the court is the intervention. Now almost they use only 5%, 95% recycle. So natural resources they are not wasting. They are preserving that. So like that, previously actually they have done a pipeline from Kaveri River to the new Tirupur water supply company. Now they don't have customers because they are themselves recycling, only filling up they are taking. So they are expecting new customers. Like that type of change is happening. See, I come from a village, nearby there is a paper mill. When I was a student, I used to go, there's a mountain of that slime sludge they used to put. It's really mountain, the tractor would be going, it looked like a mountain. Nowadays, there is no material. When I asked them, they have found way to know, they discuss with cement factory and they are using it. Instead of mining lime for cement factory, they are using the waste of paper mills. I think like that, I think many ideas have come, industry has come. See, recently last week I visited some energy efficient light manufacturer. He also make energy efficiency fans in Coimbatore. It started about 10 years back. Today they are doing around 500 crore turnover. And they say their market share in Tamil Nadu is 50%. So the people are using energy efficient lights, fans. Fans, what they do, they manufacture blades. Previously they used to steel, they used to use. Because of lightweight energy, they say it will reduce about 38% of the current consumption. They are making from aluminum sheet. They are Hindalco and they paint it and they use it. I saw it as a good, and they say their business is growing almost 50% year on year. So think on those lines. I think the MSMEs should think on, or you can become a supplier to them. Like that, these companies. I also visited a company in Coimbatore. They completely digitize. Say MSME, they spend around 2 crore for digitizing. The drawing, they don't take printout and do it. It automatically goes to the machine. The machine manufactures and immediately go for this painting or electroplating. They need not keep wait. The rust will form. They have to use some cleaning chemical, all these things. Straight away they are doing. They say this is a debt-free company. They are able to save. I think digitizing manufacturing of the CIA, our friends, both of them always used to how to digitize. That will have big effect. I think that we should embrace and digitizing so that you can use machine maintenance also. I think this also help saving a lot of energy. And also something else, our Tamil Nadu people, I think that I met another MSME, is manufacturing steel tubes. Used in refineries and chemical industry, pharma industry, and also for moving solid through pipeline, like iron ore, moving from pipeline. He has a volcano, he imports that and coat it. He says if the pipe will withstand the corrosion for 10 years, using this, it will come for 40 years. So you need not replace that pipe, you need not replace. Like a lot of things are coming. And also, one of the things I think we need to educate. what are things available to them, MSME to embrace net zero? I think the awareness, if we teach them, I particularly want to hear them. When I don't speak the MSME, I like to speak those things. So I have how many minutes, ma'am? Huh? Yes.
You have another 5.
Another 5 minutes I can take? Okay. See, last week I met the Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Environment Forest, Delhi. He is telling, Governor of India MSME Secretary last week convened a meeting how to embrace MSME in net zero. What type of incentive we can give to them? They are discussing seriously. MSME, because they feel MSME, first of all, they should become profitable, and also they should get customers for making the products in exports or even locally supplying. So they are thinking. So they have given some details. In fact, we have also requested the government whether some interest subvention on energy equipments, energy saving equipments, either green energy, they are considered. It's a consideration. Like that, if also some of the, say like the CI's Center of Excellence GBC, they also give equally. Our company also got one. It gives you marketing advantage. They also studied, they help you to how to improve your product. See, the transport also, Ms. Unnikrishnan talked. See, we used to supply chemicals from Chennai to Guwahati, one of the big corporate. They have requested, we cannot waste fuel like this. Can you bring that material to Calcutta port? From that it can go. So customers are asking, how you can, because they have to tell how much kilometer you took the material. Like that they are thinking. I think it's something it's happening, and it's so one of the company in India imports used cooking oil and manufacture biodiesel and 100% export. It's in a season. So you have a lot of opportunity business. And somebody here collect used cooking oil. He has some agents. He will collect cooking oil for hotels, even from residents. And he is pooling that and he is exporting for biodiesel manufacturing. So I am telling the opportunity for MSME in different ways. And also one of the things I think agriculture, how we can educate them to use power properly without wasting water. This is also one thing. And also even Tamil Nadu to some extent farm mechanism taking place. But we are suggesting to the government, can we create ASP, that is agriculture service providers. MSME we can create. They will have machineries. They will do complete mechanization. When I go to my village, I see the sugarcane they grow, farmers. They just burn it before cutting it. It loses some energy. What is the strength of the sugar loss is also there. And also it's polluting. So now government is offering a lot of biogas. Even they want to mix it with natural gas and supply it. They are giving a lot of some, nearly 40 to 60% they are giving subsidy. So you can become that if the mechanisms and the agriculture waste, it will not be wasted. It will not be burned or that. So they can use that also. And also circular economy, I think a lot of things in chemical particularly, a lot of things are used, recycled. So one of my friend manufacture sulfonation for the labs, which goes for detergent. So he buys 100% sulfuric acid, and after reacting it comes 70%. So previously that material they used to treat it. Now they are using for making magnesium sulfate, zinc sulfate, copper sulfate. And they are exporting. That product it goes for the nutrients for agriculture is being exported. Like that, many things we can say. I think I am very happy I have been given an opportunity to speak here. I will be very happy, sir, if you can give suggestions. Whatever you can give suggestions. We will also take to the government level. We also talk to the wherever. I think sometimes we conduct MSME link throughout India. That meeting, I think sometimes you can also send some of the people to talk about this energy efficiency, achieving carbon net zero. I think this will help us. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, may I request Mr. Sitaraman to share 2 words about the steel and manufacturing sector.
Hearing everybody, I come from the most polluting industry, what is called forging, and steel being the background of forging. But I want at the same time just make you aware, it's not as though people are not working in that area also. Most of the forging and other casting companies have started exporting, and there is a lot of restriction both from USA and Europe. From next year, we got to satisfy a lot of conditions on our carbon footprint before they accept our products. Therefore, everybody is geared to work on that. In fact, one of the conditions Europe has put on steel, where we buy from steel, they say it should be at minimum 40%, they must be converting from scrap. They should not go for 100% from iron ore. So we are conditioned, the same thing, the forging industry, I would say that 90% of forging industry has stopped buying heavy oil. They all gone for induction heating. Yes, that requires a lot of power. And solar energy today, if the industry is consuming the power, it is very, very economic for the industry. For instance, my company, we are almost about 25 megawatt of solar plants and about 18 megawatt of wind. We almost generate 22 million units. And it's very profitable because I give 5% for billing and take the entire credit on my billing rate. Therefore, it's highly paying. Only thing is the companies may not have the initial funds for putting in money for that. Yes, land has become costly. Ravichandran rightly pointed, land is becoming costly. Still, it is very economical. Maybe government can fund them initially, therefore they are able to meet it. And same thing, aluminum. A lot of automobiles and particularly they are going for more and more aluminum because aluminum is recycled as the least energy saving method. Therefore, more of aluminum is getting into the industry and into the forging industry. The steel industry, material industry and casting and forging industry, they are also putting all their efforts in. And it's going to become a must. It's not no longer it's going to be our choice. It's going to be demand of our buyers. Therefore, we have to probably get into that mode very quickly. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. So we have quite a lot of questions coming in. So shall we start with the Q&A? All right. Thank you so much. So the very first question which we have is something generic. Thereafter, there are specific questions to all of you. So this is a general question. How does Tamil Nadu's current carbon footprint compare to the targets set? And what steps are necessary to align with these targets? So I assume the question is coming from the background that Tamil Nadu has set an ambitious target to be carbon neutral by 2045 and has come out with solid action plans. So the audience would like to know, where does Tamil Nadu stand in its current carbon footprint and what steps are required to align with the set target? So this question is open for all of you.
Let me try answering this. So Tamil Nadu recently released its net zero target pathways for reaching carbon neutrality in February. So there are a number of initiatives that Tamil Nadu has made. So this report was prepared by CEEW, which is, Center for Environment, Energy and Water based in New Delhi. Now, if you look at the report, there are number of planning has been done. One, Tamil Nadu has identified that they need to add 175 gigawatts of solar energy by 2050 or 2040 to become carbon neutral by 2050. They also need to add about 17 gigawatts of offshore wind. And offshore wind is one big subject that is been in discussion in the open domain for a very long time. So they have done the planning, like as Mr. Unni was talking, that we are already 43% coming from renewable. But when you look at the GDP growth of Tamil Nadu, the $1 trillion that Tamil Nadu has looked at for 2030 and beyond 2030, they have done the roadmap and figured out that they need about 175 gigawatts of solar. The second big thing is they also looked at making a lot of green cover, carbon sinks, like forests, lot more, putting in lot more, forests in the length and breadth of the country, of the state. So there is a roadmap where by 2030 there is a plan to add more of energy. We expect by 2047 the emissions to peak, and by 2050 we are looking at becoming a carbon neutral state actually. But all of this requires a lot of capital. And who's going to fund it? That's the biggest challenge in this whole journey. So there is a plan, there is a report which is in the public domain actually.
Okay, thank you so much. So I have a happy news to kind of share. So dear panelists, we have nearly 750 viewers online. And we have got quite a lot of questions coming in from them. So, in fact, I guess the carbon neutrality session has truly become carbon neutral with more people online than offline. So, on that note, moving on to another first question, a repeated question by many of the audience. So, I would like all three of you to answer this. What initiatives have been taken by your respective organization to reach your carbon neutrality target or your sustainability target? So may I start with Punnaswamy sir? We know that Pure Chemicals has been doing quite a lot. So how are you going about with it?
I think one of the things what we did from the beginning itself, we used to recycle packing material. See, when we started the business, we used to supply this liquid chemical. So the material cost is 5 rupees, whereas the packing cost, carbide cost would be 2 rupees per kilo. So we have been talking to our customers, can you give back that plastic carbides? So we started doing that. And also that has helped us. Only we will pass on some profit to them as well as it's a win-win. We never knew this recycling will save this carbon footprint at that time, but we started. Today, we repack monthly about 10,000 ton chemicals. 70% we reuse the packing material, which is not steel drums. So globally, these chemicals reuse drums are like Europe and all, they are around 75% of the packing materials recycled. India only 12% recycle. So we are doing that. Unknowingly we started. Now we are encouraging. In fact, we are talking to government also whether this barrel can be collected without damage. We can also teach the users whether they can without damage they can return the barrel. It can be cleanly used. One thing. And also, those days, for delivery, we used to have tricycle. So it is not, somebody want 100 kilo, 200 kilo, it will go on tricycle. Nowadays it's not possible. But we are thinking on logistic, how this can be, saved long distance. Say somebody very important. Say we are the first mover. Generally chemicals are this, particularly aromatic chemicals which goes for paint and pharma industry. We used to get from Kandla. Kandla is the major port for chemical import. Then moved to JNPT. We are the first people bring the Ennur port can be brought in. So we are directly getting, instead of paying the lorry price, straight away come from here and the port is done. So it is a great saving, the unnecessary fuel transportation. Cost also. It's like that we have done. We also done some windmill and this. Every year we are planning 3 megawatts, something like that we are putting. Not per hour, we are selling that. This is what we are doing.
Thank you so much, sir. It is interesting to know about the initiatives you're doing and packaging and logistics part of it. So, Mr. Unni, can you share more about the Saint-Gobain initiatives?
Sure. Thank you. So, as a country, India has committed for carbon neutrality by 2070. But our commitment from Saint-Gobain is 2050. Globally, we need to be carbon neutral by 2050, and we cannot be an exception in India. So we have to be carbon neutral by 2050. So now, when you are on this kind of a journey, you need to set some milestones in between. So we have objectives for 2030, and taking 2017 as the base, our absolute energy consumption should come down by a certain percentage. Our water usage has to come down by a certain percentage. Our non-recovered waste has to come down by a certain percentage. And that's a strong commitment and objectives for all of us. So we have taken several steps on that part of it. I spoke about a few things in my talk in the beginning. But more specifically, I'll give you 3-4 specific examples. One is we are, typically the life of a glass furnace is around 18-20 years. At the end of it, you have to stop, you have to again rebuild the furnace again, which we have done for one of our furnaces recently. It just got started last week. That furnace is now equipped with 25% of the energy will now come from renewable sources of electricity. Earlier we were using natural gas 100%. Now going forward, 25% of the energy is going to come from electrical energy. So which means it's a new design, different kind of technology which is to be used. Second, we have really brought in a lot of alternate raw materials. Our R&D and the process teams have worked. So we have really brought in a lot of alternate raw materials, which is bringing down the scope 1 as what I mentioned. Third, I think the recycled content and the good or the bad part of India is a new construction market. So we don't, typically in Europe, it's a renovation market. So you can get a lot of construction waste. Glass you can get. And glass is infinitely recyclable. You can recycle it as many times as you want. But in India, it's new construction. So we don't get too much from the building sites, but we do get from our value chain, from our dealers and, the small industries who process the glass. We have set up a good circular economy system. We have also invested in terms of what we call the cullet sorting system using technology. With all that, we have really done that part of it. Several steps in terms of, he spoke about Industry 4.0, and we have done several steps in terms of smart meters, sensors by which we improve the efficiency in the whole system. Today, around 40% of the electricity used in our sites are coming from renewable sources of power. And we have converted several trucks which are used for transport into CNG. That's one step that we have taken. And last, I'll stop with this because the list is, quite long. I'll stop with this. When I speak about glass, what comes to your mind is glass is fragile and it breaks, right? And in a country like India, when you have to ship glass thousands of kilometers, it's not easy to do that. And when we started 25 years back, we used to pack everything on wooden packing. I'm happy to tell you today 98% of the glass goes without wooden packing. There's no wood. It goes on recyclable stillages, on steel packings which comes back, and then we do that part of it. And there's a big transformation, not just by us, also by our customers. And so you have to keep working on that part of it. So these are a few steps that we have taken.
Thank you so much, Mr. Unni. Who knew that something as fragile as glass is something which is infinitely recyclable, and they are taking big strides in circularity when it comes to glass manufacturing. Now moving on to Mr. Ravi, we know that Danfoss Nordborg campus has already become carbon neutral as on December 2022. But when we come down to India, what kind of initiatives is Danfoss taking towards carbon neutrality, and how are we achieving it in India, especially from a Tamil Nadu perspective?
Thank you, Anju. So, we have a site in Oragadam, which is a 50-acre campus. And this site is now almost 10 years. It was a greenfield project that we built. Today, we are almost 93% carbon neutral in that facility. What we have done is we have actually digitized the whole site. we exactly know where are the emissions coming from and what parts of the facility the emissions are coming from. Having the data is very important. So measuring and actually having the data where the emissions are coming is the first step we have taken. Now when I talk about digitizing, we have not only digitized the data on the energy using an energy management system, we've also done on water, we've also done on waste, we've also done on the waste coming from the canteen of the food that after we eat. So every small thing we have measured it. Just to give you an example, today when I was in the canteen in the afternoon, the waste is around 41 grams per person is the waste we are generating in the canteen. This used to be 120 grams per person just 3 years back. When every day whoever is taking a plate and in the canteen looking at the food, first he sees is his waste data. I have set a target that we should reduce the waste to 10 grams per person per day. Similarly, we have reduced water. Water used to be 165 liters per day per person in the campus. We have got it down to now 54 liters per person per day per in the campus. We have set a target of about 35 liters. So the message I want to leave you all with is, first you need to measure. If you don't measure, you cannot take action. And that is the fundamental thing we started with. Now, we have used a template, what I call as reduce, reuse, and renew. Now, what is reduce? First is you have to decouple your factory operations and your energy consumption. Which means, for example, my factory goes through capacity utilization. Some days I have 3 shifts fully operating. Some months in a year it operates at 40% because, when you get closer to Diwali, you see 3-4 days it is shut, so the capacity is down. So we have these imbalances in the capacities. We are not a continuous process industry. We actually have to really make sure that we have technology interventions so that we reduce the energy consumption, water consumption, when the factories are not operating. That's the first part on reducing, which means you harvest all the energy efficiency, water efficiency, waste efficiency from the entire facility. Second, we reuse wherever waste is available. Now, I want to give you an example. We have 2 11-ton air conditioners in our canteen. Now, in the 11-ton air conditioners in the canteen, the air conditioner throws the heat outside, which is inside the room, through a process of compression technology, right? So instead of throwing the air onto the ambient, we have captured that heat, put into a heat exchanger, and generated 65 degrees of hot water. So that hot water we are using to clean all the vessels in the canteen. Just to give you an example, right? The 50-gram waste which we generate in the kitchen, we segregate that waste and we put it into a biodigester, and the biodigester is used to heat the milk that we actually heat for making coffee, tea in the canteen. Right? So everything that we have done has been incrementally measure, take action, bring technology, intervene, bring the social transformation. Every small thing that we do in the campus, we take it around to our entire 2,000 employees so that they are aware of it. They own the transformation. That's how we can really bring the change that is needed in a very much more agile manner. So reduce and reuse. So wherever waste is there, we have reused the waste as well. The last one is renew, which means we have more or less switched off the diesel, more or less switched off the EV coal supply and moved more and more into wind and solar. We have an on-site, 1.4 megawatt we have on-site, but we also have off-site, both wind and solar, with which we have used reduce, reuse, renew. This leads to a 93% carbon neutrality. We have to take action on 7%, which is work in progress. Even though we initially started, we thought we will be carbon neutral by 2030, but with the initiatives and the great learning that we have gone through, we believe we can be carbon neutral in the next 2 years. So that's the journey we have gone through actually.
Kudos to you.
I visited with our team Danfoss factory. we spent almost one day. Anju was there, Mr. Ravichandran was there. I think what I seen, complete the whole team is thinking about that. And if you see the pallet, wooden pallet, they made chair table. The people are sitting outside and spending time. I like that. They're not, I think they are not scrap, they are not selling. They are trying to use it. It's something and you cherish and you be there. The whole day you can spend there like that outside, so much greenery. It's really something wonderful they have done.
No, I think one of the things I also have to tell you is we are not superstars. We are learning from a lot of other people. We went to meet Mr. Ike in St. Gobain and we got inspired from them on the water and on the Milwaukee. And then they said Milwaukee, they learned it from Toyota. So we went and visited Toyota and we came back and implemented that actually. 2 months ago, my team was in Tyagarajar College, Madurai, right? They were celebrating their 75th year Diamond Jubilee, where Mr. Venkaiah Naidu was there. Mr. Hari Tyagarajan requested us to demonstrate our technologies, and we showed everything there. During that conversation, we got to know that in Tyagarajar College, there is a butterfly garden. Now, we are not seeing butterflies in my garden in Oragadam. So we found out, we got curious, my team got curious, how do we get butterflies back in my garden? So we found there is a professor from botany from Madurai Tyagarajar, and she was there yesterday in our campus, and we have inaugurated yesterday a butterfly garden from learning from Madurai Tyagarajar College. So the way I am trying to tell you this story is, we are not experts, but we are actually learning from everybody. So we also are sharing, and this is what we call as a very important step in carbon neutrality. Because what works for somebody can also be a huge advantage for you actually. Hopefully at some point in time, I will see more butterflies in the next 6 months, That's the ambition on which we are sitting here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi. So as we say, it is all about learning and sharing, and what we understand from all of them is that all the technology and the solutions which are required for carbon neutrality is ready and available. So now let us discuss another aspect of it. So the question is to Mr. Punnaswamy. So what challenges and opportunities do you see for MSMEs to adopt carbon neutrality and energy transition? So what kind of support would our MSMEs require from the government, from large corporates, or via policy advocacy to make this transition possible?
I think one of the things MSME, lack of knowledge. He is the manufacturer, he is the seller, he is everything. So they do not see, particularly micro and small units. See, medium scale they may be having, but these people, I think we should keep them aware of the offer which government is giving. And also what the customer will like if you are energy efficient, if you are working towards carbon net zero. I think that their customers should teach. Like if we supply to St. Gobain or Danfoss, I think you should have a program to do that. That will help. Government side, I think a lot of incentive they can think of making this happen, because that will also incentivize. And also the cost of production will go down. I think this we have to work with them. Micro and small industry, I think we need to handle. Government as well as customer. And also supplier of raw material. They can give them some idea. That will help.
Okay.
One point. I think one of the things we also need to look at is, this whole carbon neutrality is an ecosystem play. So if we have a supplier, large companies, we also need to own and help our suppliers with knowledge transfer to get them carbon neutral. We have a supplier from Coimbatore. We are working with him very closely. He's one of our biggest casting suppliers. We are helping him recover heat from his shop floor and try and even cool his office from the heat available in a foundry actually. So this way what happens, we also help him cut costs. We benefit, he benefits. So I think the role of large company also is to really see how we can help our suppliers embrace this. And the supplier supply chain, I think you heard from Mr. Uni talking about scope 3. We didn't go more into details, but the upstream and downstream, I think equally we have responsibility, because most of the upstream and downstream are third-party vendors for most companies actually. So I think government also need to look at a PLI scheme for large companies who are really decarbonizing for upstream and downstream, Some methodologies need to be worked out in terms of ensuring that large companies really put money on the table for smaller companies, or money is available from the government which MSMEs can go directly and take it, but they are handheld by the large companies.
Thank you so much. That was in fact a lead into my next question to Mr. Unni. So how can we build a better supplier ecosystem as well as pilots for energy transition in Tamil Nadu, which can help industries of all sizes and scales as well as MSMEs?
Yeah, so, one of the, apart from in CI, one of the initiatives that we also do is Green Product and Services Council, which does the certification for that. And I happen to chair that particular one at this point in time. And I was really surprised to see that one of the sector were the automotive sector. Some of the OEMs are now asking their supply chain to really get this green product certification. That means they are really focusing on looking at, and automotive is a good sector to really work, because it always had a very structured method of vendor development, structured method of looking at the whole ancillary units, how to develop and how to convert that. So really heartening to see that the automotive sector has taken up this particular one. Not all the companies, but at least some of them have really taken it up. So I think wherever the large industries are there, and if those large industries and especially the leaders in that industry will have to take the lead, then the rest of the market will follow from that in terms of converting the value chain. On the energy transition for the state, I think I already mentioned that in my talk. I think the first step is to move from not at all clean to at least to some extent cleaner fuel, which is, moving to the gas, and really harness the potential of renewable sources, whether it's a solar, whether it's the offshore wind, and see the possibilities of really leveraging hydrogen as a very strong source of energy for the state. I think that is eminently possible for us. Those are the steps that we will need to take. I think the state has also identified some kind of a plans for different cities, because you also will need to look at how you want to, because it's not that it's spread out all over the state. It's probably concentrated also in a few pockets. So I think there are steps taken for different concentrated cities, how to really decarbonize that. I'm sure those steps will really take us to carbon neutrality, maybe not 2045, but at least by 2070 for sure.
Thank you so much. So we do have some other questions, especially pertaining to how is the Kyoto Protocol implementation as well as the Clean Development Mechanism implementation helping Tamil Nadu in its emissions reduction and sustainable development? Open question. CDM and Kyoto Protocol.
I think from a protocol point of view, I don't think we really put a lot of focus on it. These protocols were all defined quite a bit, but most of the protocol was more around building the roadmap. I think we have moved away from protocols to real action now, where we have defined what kind of refrigerants we will use in terms of cooling technology, what kind of gases we will allow. So there has been quite a bit of action that has happened before. I think from a greenhouse gas point of view, the biggest challenge that we are now looking into is to really do energy transition for the country. And there, solar is going to be a very important stake for us. But when it comes to specific industries, which is like chemical industry, petroleum industry, there is a lot of work to be done in terms of defining what is the idealistic path that we need to choose. Sometimes what works for A country need not work for a B country actually because of geopolitics and availability of raw materials, the cost and all of that stuff. So that geopolitical related subject is there. But I think in G20, where India did a very good job this year, they have clearly defined what is their direction towards 2070, which kind of embraces all the Kyoto requirements and the holistic thing. But I think the biggest challenge is, if India wants to reach carbon neutrality by 2070, I think I mentioned at the start of my speech, we need technology, we need capital, we need skills, we need quite a bit of ecosystem to be in place actually. So this is a very, 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 very humongous task. I'm not too much worried about the large industries because they have the capital, but how do we carry the MSMEs and the smaller industry in this transition? Because as Mr. Ponusamy said, making a green transition makes business sense. It's straight to your bottom line actually. And the day when MSMEs start to see energy, water, waste, all of it in their balance sheet, they will start to harness a lot more opportunities going forward. But what's missing is, if tomorrow an MSME wants to get audited and look at what kind of pathways he needs to build, this is an area where we still don't have capacity building in place. And that's why I feel we should engage more with universities. MSMEs should also access IITs and, universities so that they can tap into these talents as well. But today, unfortunately, universities don't want to look at MSMEs. They only want to look at big companies actually. So we also need to make MSMEs more attractive for universities and startups also more attractive for MSMEs. So we need to build that whole ecosystem in my view. So I might have digressed a bit from Kyoto Protocol, but Kyoto Protocol, I think India is already leading. India has already demonstrated its commitments, and we have already reduced our emissions, and we are really leading the world in this topic at the moment.
Thank you so much. We are nearing the end of our time. So this last question is a rapid fire question to all of you. So in one word, what would be your call for action to our audience or to the government to embrace the pathway to carbon neutrality? Your one word or one line maximum call for action for carbon neutrality. Sitaraman sir.
Yeah, there should be a strict control from government side on the usage of energy.
To me, it's all about partnership.
I think very important is collaborate with the government and also industry, particularly MSMEs. How this partnership, I think that is. And also as Ms. Ravi said, collaborating with the institutions, educational institution, the research institution, how they can MSME can work. I think that will have a long way.
I will say Nike, just do it.
Wonderful. That was a very good sum up as well. So the immediate call for action is that we collaborate, co-create and build a sustainable tomorrow. Thank you so much to all the panelists and over to Vijay Kumar sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Unni. I think you were encouraging words because for 700 watching, I'm happy actually. And I can assure you next few days, thousands of people watch because we make sure they watch because this is a message which everybody should know. And from MMA, we do quite a bit of work, knowingly, unknowingly. We got 15 kilowatt of solar power. All our air conditioned water is taken. We hardly get any water from outside. We use our own water and air conditions 24. My guys to save power, they even keep it at 27. Members will crib, no, it's very hot, please reduce it. All these things happen. I think we are also learning. We learned a lot of points. I still remember when I went to, I think Mr. Ravi's thing, he said one particular day water consumption is very high. Then he followed why that day is high. Whenever they serve idli and pongal, the water consumption is very high. I still remember he told me that. Sambar. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause to our team for fascinating evening, very knowledgeable. And may I request Sitaram and others step forward, take honor. And you also join us, Ms. Sundaram. In honor to all the speakers, what we give is one of books. Come to the front. Come. With you. Yes. Everybody should have that back. Come. Very clear. Yes. Everybody go. You know, yeah. So ready for this? Come on. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining this evening, and get back home safely, and see you tomorrow again, another event, and thank you for your great encouragement for the lovely evening.